given all the wind that's going to come off the beach, it's probably crazy to try to film there from an audio perspective, but it seems like the best place too. So I'm going to try that now. Let's see how it goes. I don't know if you knew this about me, but for a hot minute, like 5 years or so, I jumped out of the academic world and into tech. Mixed results. But I will say I learned a few things. Probably one of my favorite things that I got from that experience was an interplay of design thinking that the kind of professional MBA types had. That had some overlap with the engineers. And specifically this revolved around something they called a user story. The user story was some way to make the design thinking concrete enough for the business folks, for the administrative type of people that were cooking up ideas. It was a way to help them make their proposals concrete, as it were. And from an engineer's perspective, it was a way to make sure that what they were working on was directly relevant to some person somewhere who had some problem. My role was of a scientist, which somehow intertwined between the designers or the business administrator types and the engineering types. And so from that point of view, I guess I feel like I got a pretty unique perspective on how the design process worked. In some instances, it felt kind of overly burdensome to make a requirement for anything that got moved at all, anything that any resources were allocated to have some kind of user story component to it. But now that I look at my own work and the work of the Pasayten Institute, things that I'm working on, that's kind of the very first thing I do, is to create a collection of user stories so that I can kind of frame what I'm trying to do. Before I kind of get any further, I think it's probably important to explain what a user story is. So let's do that. At its essence, the user story is kind of like a formula. It's a 3-part formula that goes something like like this. As a person, I am looking for a thing so that I can achieve some outcome. So person, thing, outcome. Person, action, effect, that sort of thing. It's important to be as specific and concrete as possible when coming up with user stories, because you can always make as many as you want, right? So for example, as a college student, I'm looking for a YouTube channel about math videos so that I can study harder. Is a pretty crummy user story because it really doesn't tell you anything about who the person looking for math videos is, what kind of math videos they're looking for, and maybe even like what kind of YouTube channel they're interested in. Is it math for physics? Is it math for representation theory? You know, that sort of thing. So you might try something along the lines of, as a senior physics major, asking for letters of recommendation, I'm looking for some YouTube videos on representation theory so that I can better understand Gell-Mann's eightfold way and write an awesome report for my particle physics class. That might be overkill, but at least it gets you a sense of who your fiducial user, who you're designing your product for, what problems might they have. And like I said, you can create a potpourri of different user perspectives. Let's take another one. Another example might be, as a graduate student stuck teaching a particle physics lecture for my advisor who just happens to be on some kind of informal sabbatical this term, I'm looking for an applied representation theory video series so that I can quickly put together some lectures for this course that for whatever reason I'm stuck teaching. That may not be a common use case, but already we're seeing some perspectives. You know, someone needs to put together course materials quickly and maybe without the depth of knowledge that someone else might have, and so it's an outline, right? So these are examples of the user stories that I've used specifically for our applied representation theory course. So whether or not you're teaching a class or coming up with some problems, solution sets for a recitation, or just coming up with some kind of internet videos, it's a good idea to apply the user story formula to whatever it is that you're trying to create, to your creative process, so that you can get a sense of what precisely are doing, because sometimes what we are thinking that we're thinking about up in our head doesn't exactly translate precisely to what we had hoped when we try to put it out on paper. If anything, it's a good check on your creative process. Sure, create what you want, but if you're looking to help people, it's good to have at least some kind of fiducial metric by which you can compare your attempt to help them against.